Welcome back to the Domestique Hotseat Podcast, and we've got an interesting one for you today because we have a Devo team rider. He rides for NSN, and he's got a fantastic last name. It's Zac Marriage. We get through what's it like growing up as an Aussie cyclist, going through Australia's scene and things like the Pro Velo Superleague, which is the local Australian circuit, before we jump over to racing a home race at the Tour Down Under and then Israel Premier Tech, and that whole Vuelta saga and what it was like being a new rider. Zac was, 22 days into his time at Israel Premier Tech when the Vuelta kicked off, and I think the rest is history, really. So really interesting chat. I hope you enjoy it. If you do, go and follow him on the socials. His Instagram handle is weird, so just search Zac Marriage, and enjoy. Sit back, get your popcorn, let's have fun. All right, so Tour of One. Cut that. All right, so Tour of Wonder. Really keen to see that. And again, thanks, Zac, for coming on. We really appreciate all the guests on here. Got a few really good ones lined up, so the hits keep coming. And again, if you're on YouTube and you're watching this and you've got some suggestions for guests, chuck them in the comments. Give this a like. Go over to Domestique. Make it your favorite cycling news website. Why wouldn't you? And cheers, everyone. Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we have Zac Marriage, mate, and that is a fantastic name. When I first heard that name, I thought that's got to be a bit of a stitch up. How was high school for you with that as your last name?
Oh, no, it was fine, really. There's only so many jokes, and once they're said, But it's funny if you make the most of it. I had a teacher once who used to tease me for it, but his name was Mr. Hunt, so he's come back with who are you hunting down today and stuff like this. So it was fine, really. It was if that's the biggest problem of the day, I've had a pretty good day, is what I always used to think.
That's it, hey. Look, before we get into the formalities of it, I think there might be some people that are listening to this that might not really be familiar with who Zac Marriage is. So can you give us a bit of what's your resume, like what team are you riding for at the moment, where have you come from, what's your background? Just really briefly, if you were, let's say we're doing like a speed dating thing. Hopefully, if you ever do speed dating, you're sitting across from someone a bit more attractive than myself. But let's say hypothetically, it's a speed dating thing and you've got 1 minute to just run through, hi, I'm Zac Marriage, this is my deal. So let's go.
Yeah, right. Hi, I'm Zac Marriage from Adelaide, Australia. Started off on the track, really, riding with the South Australian Sports Institute program. And then, I was riding for Bridge Lane, Conti team in Australia, went to Europe a few times with them. And then last year, rode for a Philippines team and then had my first little stagiaire contract. And then, this year riding for NSN development team. Really, that's kind of me in a nutshell for bikes.
Mate, that's not bad. And I reckon you did about a minute there. So we're going to unpack the NSN stuff in a sec because I'm really excited about this team. And it's not just because of the jersey. I think it's a really interesting team. And honestly, been pulling some good results. But we're going to start off. The way we start this with the riders is we do a cheeky bit of trivia. There's a bit of an icebreaker. So again, Zac's not been exposed to these questions. These are all unseen. Just to run through the rules, you can pass. It is how many questions you get correct at the end. So Zac, you ready?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay. That's 5 minutes. I want 1 minute. All right. Which continent is home to the most countries?
Asia.
Okay. Which famous explorer sailed the ocean blue in 1492?
Columbus.
What was the name of the German Air Force during World War II?
The Luftwaffe, I think.
Which planet is known as the Red Planet?
Mars.
What is the hardest known natural mineral?
Diamond.
Which artist famously painted the Mona Lisa?
Van Gogh.
What is the main color associated with the character Elmo?
Red, I guess.
What is the collective name for a group of lions?
Pride.
How many legs does an insect have?
6, mostly.
And what is the deepest ocean trench in the world?
Mariana Trench.
Okay, and the last one, the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates was famous for teaching which other great philosopher?
No idea.
That's all right. You actually did really well. So it's not Asia, it's Africa is the home with the most continent with the most countries. Aside from that, Christopher Columbus, the Luftwaffe was correct. Mars was correct. Diamond was correct. You said Van Gogh, the Mona Lisa was Leonardo da Vinci. Red was correct. Pride was correct. 6 legs was correct. The Mariana Trench was correct. And then it's Plato is the last one. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I think that's the record. So I actually think you're winning at the moment. So that's not bad, mate. Some will say I've been favourable to the Australians. I'll say, what's the point of a home ground advantage if you don't get a home ground advantage? So, okay, we've done a little bit about you, but I guess I wanted to unpack what is it that brought you to cycling. Everyone's got their story of how they first sort of threw a leg over their bike. What was it for you? What got you into it in the first place, and what really got you that bug?
Well, my dad used to just like a weekend ride, and I always used to see him off because he's a little kid waking up early on a Saturday morning, and he's leaving. I was like, oh, well, enjoy. And then started off on the track, which was cool. They had a good program on Friday nights in Adelaide. You kind of come and try sessions, then kind of just enjoyed it, and then you progress and you get to go to the Wednesday sessions, which are like the state development sessions, and then kind of got the bug for it. Really, just really enjoyed racing and riding my bike, I guess.
And so it was track first. You weren't doing any road at that point. It was just track.
Yeah, mostly. I mean, I'd ridden when I was young, just riding around with mates on mountain bikes and stuff. But yeah, track was when I started racing. Really, yeah.
If you had an e-bike now, like if you were a kid now, would you be one of those e-bike pests on your e-bike, mountain bike? Who knew? I don't know what it's like in Adelaide. Oh, well, you're not in Adelaide most of the time, but in Australia at the moment, the e-bikes are like the thing that the news is just, they're like a dog with the bone with it. Would you have had an e-mountain bike, do you reckon? And you would have been doing wheelies down the main street?
I'd probably be too egotistical to an e-bike if I do it with my legs. So I'm going to say no, I wouldn't have an e-bike.
I'm the same. I commute and I've got a Brompton, so I take it on the train, and people come up and they say, "Oh, does that thing have a motor?" And it's no. Look at me. I don't ride with a motor. Like, I'm with you. I can't do it. Unless the only e-bike I think I would get would be like a cargo bike. And then you can put the groceries and stuff in there. But yeah, aside from that, I'm with you. We got the engine. We don't need that shit. So when was it, I guess, that you progressed onto road cycling? Did that come a bit later, or did the track move? I mean, what age were you when you first started the track, actually?
I can started racing maybe first or second year in the 15s. And I kind of started racing on the road similar time.
Yep.
Mostly track races because there was more of them and it was quite accessible for us.
Yeah.
Like the track racing nights and stuff. But yeah, then a few road races, like local crits and stuff. So I'd say, pretty similar overlap. And then I remember going to Victoria with a few mates and racing, I know, the Castlemaine tour and Bendigo tours and stuff like this, which was good fun. The first like proper cycling trips, really. So I guess
that sounds basically that sounds genuinely good as like a teenager to just pack up the car and drive across. So for anyone in Europe listening, Australia is kind of big. So the trip from Adelaide to Melbourne is not a short trip. What did that be, like 700
8
Ks or something?
hours, 8.5
Yeah, that's
hours, I think.
crazy. So a lot of time to bond with your mates. So I guess at what point did you realize that you were pretty good at this?
Not for a while. I was such a small, some say I'm still quite a small guy, but such a like underdeveloped kind of junior. So I kind of had to, I don't know, maybe that's where I got the bug for just like working really hard for it. Because I really wanted to be at that, at the next level. And I guess just the pathways and the progression kind of got me through it. But it took a while for me to actually be competitive in the, I think my first nationals, the best was like 11th in the points race because I crossed the line first with 0 points or something like this.
Yeah.
In under 17. So I'd say under 19s is where I first started actually feeling competitive in the scene.
Really, that late? Wow. Well, competitive you are now because you you started out in the PSL, and Australia used to have this racing scene. It was called the National Road Series, shortened to the NRS. I don't know the exact story, but that's gone under now, and it's been replaced by this thing called the Pro Velo Superleague. And depending on who you ask in Australia, this is either a house of cards waiting to fall, or it is the most important brick in the Australian cycling wall, and it just depends on who you catch. So I guess what was it like for you on the inside of the Pro Velo Super League? It is, whether you like it or lump it, it's the only domestic racing circuit in Australia at a national level. What do you think it's doing well, and what do you think needs improvement in that league? I mean, I guess you probably weren't in there for too long, but...
Yeah, I mean, I was part of the Bridge Lane Conti team doing the NRS and traveling around, and then you could kind of feel the NRS was dying a bit with riders going overseas, and then COVID happened and all this stuff, which like it sucked, but it was happening. It was all right. And then this whole new revamp thing. Obviously, everyone's a bit skeptical to start with, but I think like they really surprised. I think everyone really how well they were doing it. So yeah, you're saying some people think it's like the good or a bad thing, but I think it's they do a really good job with it, especially the media side. I found really, really good with it. So much more coverage than the NRS. And they kept lots of the same races. So I think I really enjoyed it actually. I thought it was run very well. Most like all of the rounds really.
Yeah, so for anyone that doesn't know, the PSL, it's not within the UCI, so they're not beholden to a lot of the UCI rules. They do still race UCI legal bikes and all of that kind of stuff, but some of the rules around how things are raced are different. So I think this year they've introduced sprints that give you time bonuses throughout the races. So there are checkpoints that you can snag time bonuses in, which I think is really cool. They're doing things like onboard GoPros, which has started to happen in the pro peloton in some races, I think. But also they're hot micing some riders and going direct to interviews on the riders. And I agree with you. I think media-wise, it is doing some good things. So you had some pretty good results there, but your best result was the 2023 Grafton to Inverell, which wouldn't have been the Pro Velo Super League. That still would have been the NRS, correct?
Yeah, that was NRS still. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is sort of Australia's biggest one-day race. And if you've won a classic in Europe, I guess you would imagine that doors would fly open. What was it like winning the Grafton to Inverell? I'm assuming that Visma Lisa Bike wasn't calling you and saying, "Hey, do you want to jump on the team?"
No. Unfortunately not. But it's not quite as much coverage for like you win a race in Australia, and unfortunately, European teams they care about the UCI class races first, and even in Asia, it's quite tricky to do a standout result there that gets you noticed. But I think it was really important to mark yourself within like the team of Bridge Lane for me at the time as like someone who will get the opportunities to go to those races that get noticed as well. So it's maybe not so internationally, but nationally it kind of helps you get to the next level where you can get noticed, I think.
Yeah, okay. So sort of like a progression where you have demonstrated yourself on the national level, so that gives you more chops in the Conti level. So maybe they're sending you to some more
Yeah.
of those races.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of just, it helps. It's just a stepping stone, really.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's also just a fun race to do. And
Yeah.
in general, like there's no bad outcome for racing one of those races.
Yeah. So what doors did that open? I guess then you jump over to racing in Asia. I've done emceeing on one of the Chinese races, but you would have much better experience in regards to Asia. It's a bit of the unknown. I mean, it's quite funny. You look at all these Middle Eastern races, and they've sort of come out of nowhere. Tour of is it Tour of Oman? The Alula Tour, UAE Tour is about to kick off. It seems like we're just bombarded with all this news from these sort of Middle Eastern tours. But then you go to these Asian tours, and the scene over there is a really thriving scene, but it doesn't seem to have the cut through. What was it like racing over in Asia? What are the differences, I guess, from, now doing a few races over in Europe? Is there a difference? What do you think Asia's doing well, and what do you think they could maybe do to have a bit more of cut through?
Yeah, well, I have only raced Asia. I did Tour of Japan before, which was awesome, and then raced in China twice last year.
Yeah.
And then Japan Cup at the end, but it was kind of more European style. But yeah, the Asian scene, especially in Japan, it's really interesting. It seems a lot more open on who's competing and who's winning. Like, there's obviously the top ranked teams, like you got the Terenganos, the Rujais, etc., and they're still winning the top races. But it seems there's more people willing to like give it a crack, really, as opposed to it's less elitist in a way. Not that being the European elitist is a bad thing, but just that's the kind of thing I noticed, really. Like, you got people that are excited to finish the races. And everyone, the culture around it, it's a lot more relaxed, I found. Like, after the races, going out and having a nice dinner somewhere and wandering the streets and exploring the really cool parts of the world you get to see.
Yeah, well, I've talked to a few people who do sort of the Asian circuit, and they don't really, I mean, they're at different levels in their career, but they've got no interest in jumping back to Europe because, like you said, the lifestyle is just so much more relaxed in Asia. I was talking to Claudia Marks, who's you'd be familiar with Claudia from your South Australian track stuff, but Claudia was saying that America and Asia, she thinks, are the two pathways that a lot of Australians don't consider. So many Australians especially are so focused in getting over to Europe. Would you agree with that, or do you still think that Europe is, I mean, it's easy to say now you're racing over in Europe, you're probably loving it, but do you think Europe is still the place that everyone should be aiming for, or is there another pathway there?
There's plenty of pathways, I'd say, but yeah, the unfortunate thing is the European racing, like, you want to impress against the people you want the teams to sign, and all the big teams are European based. So to kind of get noticed, you do have to, no disrespect to the Chinese teams, but beating someone that, I don't know, the head of Jumbo's never even heard about before isn't going to get you the same coverage as, I don't know, you raced against Wout van Aert, so it's just kind of that kind of thing. But also the Asian pathway is really good. I don't know anything about American pathway, but the Asian pathway is really good for Australians because you can just fly in, fly out, and lots of teams really allow you to do this. Like, I know for the brief time I did in the Filipino 711 team last year, we flew back and forth from China twice, went to Africa as well. So it's easier than moving your whole life overseas, which I guess what I've had to do now.
Yeah,
for Australians.
And on that, a lot of the Europeans, I don't know whether they really appreciate what the Australians actually do. I've been reading, plug to a recent interview, which you should also go listen to if you're enjoying this, but Jens Voigt, I've been reading his autobiography, and he talks about he was over there with a bunch of the Aussies, like Stuart O'Grady, when they were riding over in Europe, and he was saying they just have shifted their entire life over there, and so they just have a different mentality. What is it like as someone who, I mean, what were you, 22, 21 when you jumped over to Europe? What's that shift like for you as someone who has, for the most part, been fly in, fly out for your racing circuit over in Asia, and then really being at home? What's it like to completely upend your life? Is it exciting? Has the honeymoon worn off to an extent?
Not yet, really. I've only been like this year. I'm still pretty fresh to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've noticed like so I'm living in Girona at the moment with two other Australian guys, and it's saturated full of, Australians, Kiwis, Americans, Canadians, all the people that do have to fly in and like move their whole lives over here. So you're kind of always having it, and there's pros and cons really. Like I'm now living in a house in the south of Spain with two of my good mates for a year. Like there's not much complaining about that. But but like you're 9-hour time difference from home, and like you can't just pop into my sister's room and annoy her for a bit like I could a couple of weeks ago, So it's cool though. But I think the biggest comparison is what someone in my team camp last week said was we're kind of on a full year training camp really, whereas they go for a training camp for like a week and then go back home. We're kind of always on a training camp really, it feels like. So it'll start to become more normal life at the a bit further along, but at the moment it just feels like we're all here for performance environment. But it's a really cool, it's just what you got to do really, and it just makes the big step even more exciting in a way.
I feel like that moves naturally into another question that I guess I was going to ask a little bit later, but you're talking about all year round training camp. How are you finding your performance? Like, have you noticed that you're pulling better numbers now that you've sort of moved to an area and that has become your dedicated life, as opposed to in the past where you've been, I guess, a part-time cyclist? Are you noticing a difference in what you're able to put out? Have you noticed that move and that focus specifically on that is allowing you to develop as a cyclist?
Yeah, I think it has. I think because two other cyclists in this house as well, so we're just like making our own little performance environment, and it's kind of like a blank slate. There's no like, whereas at home you're like, oh, I've got these events you got to work around. We get here and performance first, everything else second, which not sure how sustainable it is, but at the moment it's been really, it's really good. So I think it's just trying to do everything right with no obstacles in a way. Not that being at home is an obstacle, but just But also training in Adelaide is also really, really good also. It's not like the training roads have got any better or worse. It's just, the lifestyle is kind of blank slate, build your best performance environment from that and then go from there really.
So in Australia, sort of the Europe gap year is a bit of a cliche really, but most people, my brother did a Europe gap year and I was jealous. Not because he was overcycling everywhere, but because he seemed like every day he was just getting pissed in a different, really nice location. When you talk to your mates that say you went to high school with, and you say, "Oh, I'm living over in Europe for a year," do they expect a different lifestyle to what you're living? And how are you finding that transition to that performance lifestyle, that, weighing your food, the regimented lifestyle, I guess you're very much on the whereabouts system now as well. So how are you finding that shift to a really professional life at 22?
It's been pretty seamless really. It's just like another step because I guess through juniors you start like, oh, this is what a carb is. Let's start doing that better. And then next time, like, oh, focus on my sleep more. So it's kind of just extra steps going up. So now it's kind of more of a combination of everything. So it hasn't feel like a big jump to new performance environment, which I think is a good way of doing it. Really, just don't really shock your body into stuff. But also, I've only been here for a week or two now. I'm sure it will develop down, and done a training camp, and I just did a race, and I'm off racing next week. But then after that, when I get a bull training block, I think that's when I'll start to notice the big differences. Really.
Yeah, totally. And so having a chat to Adam Hansen, CPA president, he was talking about how some juniors and sort of the younger riders, they do find that the whereabouts system is a bit of a trap in some ways because it's not the life that they're used to leading. How do you find you're going? I mean, I'm assuming you're on the whereabouts system last year, but how are you finding that transition to, I guess, a situation where you've got to be providing 3 months in advance where you're going to be every day? Does that affect your life at all? Is it something like a cloud that's always there?
Well, I've actually been on it for 3 or 4 years now.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
been on it so it's kind of a habit mostly now. But yeah, it does catch you out sometimes. Say like normal training is all right, and it's gotten easier and easier as the teams I've been in have been more and more like not organized, but it's a lot clearer where you're staying, what you're doing. Like I've got a big website of where I'm staying, all the hotels, so it's quite easy then. But say like
I think it's quite fair to say that NSN is probably more professional than Bridgelane. I don't think Bridgelane would necessarily be offended if you said that, but I see what you mean. Yeah, sorry. So you've got a spreadsheet of different hotels and stuff.
Yeah, so it makes it quite easy to do, but it's just more so it can catch you out when you're like, you nip over to a mate's house for a night or something. It's more so I found it trickier in the off-season period where you feel like you're kind of off the cycling bit for a couple of weeks and you're kind of full relaxed, and then you're zipping off to, I'm not going to spend the night at my mate's house or go camping here, and you're like, need to find out where I'm going to be for an hour and stuff. And it's like you put your 3 months in, but you can change it at any time, really. Yeah. So it's not as, I guess, if it sounds more intrusive than it feels, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I don't know how it would go with me. I don't know where I'm going to be in about half an hour, so I'm very chaotic. But yeah, no, I get what you mean. Like, yeah, you're able to change it. You just need to remember to update it. I think that would be what would catch me out. Look, you raced for the Uni SA national team that was last year at the Tour Down Under, correct?
Yep.
What I wanted to ask was, so you're an Adelaide local, and imagine you grew up watching the Tour Down Under. What was it like for you to be in that all of a sudden?
It was awesome, actually. I've watched it all growing up, all home roads. You go out there and you got your first long riders to Wollonga and to see them fly up it and stuff. But then I've done it through the COVID years when they cancelled it. It was like an NRS race. And then I raced it in the Uni SA team the first time when it was back, with Caleb Ewan and Jared just as like the pros in the team, and then the track guys also. Yeah. And that was the first time I was like, whoa, this is unreal. And then, last year, I felt like I was competitive, like quite ready to be competitive at it. And that felt, it was unbelievable. You got your mates on the side of the road and you finish and you're the guy who stops half the finish line and chats to his mates over the fence. And you're like, wow, this is amazing. It was, it was probably one of the coolest things I've done so far.
It's because you wouldn't have that at all in Europe, I'd imagine. Again, something that maybe goes underappreciated is that for most Australians, they don't have a home race in the way that someone that grew up in Belgium, when they go and race the Belgium Classics or something, you are sort of someone that people go and flock to. So, yeah, I get what you mean. And you were, especially stage one, you were collecting points on stage one. You were on a flyer. What was it like to be in the break again on the first day of the race, was that just adrenaline that was pushing you along there, or was that a tactic?
Pretty
That,
much.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah, because we went, it was like a few laps as well. Like we did 2 laps of this circuit. So you go to the finish line, you're with Fergus Browning as one of my mates as well. And we're just like soaking up the roars. You couldn't even feel your legs going through there. It was awesome. Yeah, it was electric.
because that was the first tour down under I'd ever been to, and I'd had kids. They would have been 2, just turned 2, and so that was the first big trip that I did without the kids. And I remember getting down there. I got down there on the Monday, and then you guys started on the Tuesday from memory. And that was the first stage professionally that I'd ever seen in my life. I'd never been to a professional bike race before, and I remember seeing you two in the break and just thinking, this is tits. This is what it's about. So yeah, you absolutely made my day, but you must have made some other people's days too, because hey, you got noticed in 2025, and you end up jumping onto the Israel Premier Tech squad. Was there a result that they pointed to and said, hey, we saw you in this? Was it the Tour Down Under? Did they ever tell you, like, you know, we rated your performance here and that's why we're interested?
Yeah, it was Tour Down Under was a big one. Also, national time trial champion. I won the 23 one last year. So that was also a big help. And then like you got teams that got your power numbers and stuff. They quite like that as well. And then like you see your race in the Pro Velo League. Like not so much. It was more so, he can race a bike, as opposed to I will find him from it. So it was mostly that first half of the year, because it was quite a late thing I signed for that.
Yeah. Well, I've got you starting on the 1st of the 8th. So the 1st of August you start. You're on IPT as a stagiaire. This is probably a bit of a dream contract for you, right? I mean, you jump onto a team with Chris Froome, Bennett, Ackerman, Fulsang, Woods, as well as a pretty good Aussie and Kiwi contingent. So it's not like you're jumping over, you got Clark on there. You got some decent Aussie mentors, as well as like a guy like Chris Froome, multiple Tour de France winner. That must have been amazing. Was that like, what was it like walking into that team? Was there a bit of like, I don't know if I belong here, or was it this is my moment kind of thing? What's that like? Because it wasn't the development team either, was it? It was, you were on the proper team.
Yeah. So I actually went on their pre-Vuelta and a few other races that they were preparing for training camp in the vineyard in Italy before. They were like, we'll go send you to this so you can meet everyone before your racing starts on the August 1st, which is when stagiaires are allowed to start. So I was kind of like a guest on their training camp. And it was like Chris Froome and Simon Clark and all these big hitters, and they're all preparing, and it was amazing actually. And you learn so much from all of them, really. Simon Clark is amazing to learn a bunch of stuff off. He really helped me out there. Same with everyone. And then the staff are just super like keen to. It did feel like I was like, I'm kind of just a guest here sometimes. I was just straight off the plane or learning from these big guys. But cruising along and you're just having a chat to Chris Froome, and you have to pinch yourself after a while. And I remember messaging Dad or something like, I just ride with Chris Froome everywhere. It's really cool.
Yeah. So, and your dad would have been stoked about that. Hey, as a guy who's been, a local hitter in the Adelaide cycling scene, he would have been sitting there watching Chris Froome in every Tour de France, and then all of a sudden his kids riding along with him. That must have been a pinch yourself moment for your dad. What did he say?
Yeah, they're just like really excited, really ready to. It's cool. Especially like I'm over here for the year. Like I'm not going to see them for a while, so it's kind of they don't really know what's going on. But you just like send like, I just rode with Chris Froome, or I just raced Tour of Britain with Remco Evenepoel on the start list and stuff like this. yeah, it was very eye-opening for, I think, everyone, myself and the family. It was really cool.
It must be really nice. See, my parents, God bless them, they got no clue about cycling at all. And so I still don't know if my parents know what I do. Like in the cycling scene, I don't think they understand it. I don't think my dad understands Instagram. So I don't know. I think it was when I got sent over to China that I think they realized that, oh shit, okay. Like something's so my dad's golf. He's always been golf, and I couldn't give a rat's ass about golf, if I'm honest. And so
Yep.
I just think it must be nice to have the ability to share that with your dad. Because if I went and talked to Remco Evenepoel and I told my dad, he'd be like, "Yeah, cool. Hey, did you watch the Live Golf on the weekend?" kind of thing. Like, he's just got nothing. So I'm a little bit jealous of you there. Yeah, big shout out to your dad. But look. It's not all sunshine and rainbows at Israel Premier Tech at this time. I think is an understatement. When you got over there, obviously a little bit of foreshadowing, but were you sensing anything? What was the mood in the team coming into things? Like we had the Vuelta coming up. Was there talk about what's going to happen at this race in that training camp you were talking about? Were there any preparations for it? Was anything expected, I guess?
I guess like for the few, like I only just came into it, so I was kind of, and I guess the riders are probably the last to know. It's like, which is, I think, is a good thing. Kind of keeps the stress away from it. But I'm sure there was preparations, and I don't think anyone expected it to be as bad as it was. But again, like I didn't race the Vuelta. Everyone like it's. I raced a few other races, and there was a few protests here and there, but like. We get told about it beforehand. We had help from the local police and stuff, which from our point of view, it's like you're targeting. I was racing with the Conti team at that time in Portugal. It was like they were targeting 19, 20, 21-year-old riders who've nothing to do with it in Portugal. Like, I don't know, it was an interesting one, but it wasn't really on us to do anything. So we just had confidence in the staff and stuff. So it was, I'd never felt unsafe, really.
Okay, good. Because I agree with you. Regardless of your opinion on what was going on at the time, we care so much about rider safety in all other aspects of cycling. I think you really have to make sure that the courses are safe and that the riders are safe on them. And that includes from protesters. So, yeah, I'm glad you were okay. But at the Vuelta, man, it got pretty real. So, like I said, you signed on the 1st of August and the Vuelta started on the 23rd. I guess what I wanted to ask you was, touching back, when you go to that training camp, you must have been on absolute cloud nine. You're riding with Chris Froome. You're calling your dad saying, "Sucked in, Dad. I rode with Froomey." And then you sit down to watch the guys that you were just doing a training camp with racing at the Vuelta, and there are people blocking the roads. There are people running onto the road and trying to tackle riders from your team off their bikes. The last stage ends up getting shortened. And what was that like as someone who's just signed on? This is everything that you've been working towards, and then it really looks like it's starting to crash around you. How are you feeling as someone who's just sort of stepped into that environment?
Yeah, man, it was a bit shit. We knew there was going to be changes coming. There's no sugarcoating. It was quite shit again, but it wasn't really like I was the last person to be affected. I was sitting in the house in Girona where I was kicking off. So, like, it's you knew changes are coming, and it has. And now there's, I think the way we put it was like that's the only negative of the team at that point, which we know is changing. So it was still on cloud nine, super excited to be there. And then I guess like this year it's changed. The big changes have been done, registration, staff, sponsors and stuff. So now is pretty faultless as I can, well, from my point of view at least. at the
Well, I
moment.
wanted to ask about that too. So at what point did you find out that there was going to be this shift? Because during the Vuelta, they dropped the Israel name on the jerseys, and it was just Premier Tech during the Vuelta. So they made that change. Around the time of the Vuelta, was this in motion? And I understand there might be some things that you can confirm and can't confirm, but did the riders have an idea of the fact that this was going to change, that there was going to be that shift during something like the Vuelta?
Again, I'm kind of just in the dark, really, most of it.
Yeah.
Like, we don't really get told. Like, I wasn't part of the Vuelta team, so there's no real need for me to know.
Yep.
And I'm sure, like, with the riders, I'm sure the staff would have come up with a solution. We're like, right, this is what's happening, and then it would have happened. So, yeah, I wasn't really. We know there was going to be a change, and you're still getting messages about, oh, this is what's going to happen next year. So you know it's all going to be fine, really. I was never really as stressed as the people around me, really, because I just like full confidence in the organization that's the team is, yeah.
Well, then you have had that change. We've jumped over to NSN now. What are the feelings in the team around this shift to NSN? Has it led to a morale shift? Have you noticed that people are, I don't know, feeling happier in the environment? I mean, it must be nice to be able to go to races and not get crash tackled. So that's probably a positive. But I guess, what are the takeaways from this shift?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything to compare to from last year's morale, but everyone's super keen, super excited to get cracking into racing, and obviously, like, you've seen the pro guys winning it with the stuff now, so can't really get much better than that. The kit's good, the bikes are awesome. The morale's really high in the team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the kit would be up there with the kit of the year. There's been a few people, I've heard a few people complaining that they think it looks like, a crit club kit. I think that's slanderous. I think it's fantastic. I think they've done something brave with the jerseys, and you know what? You can spot it from a helicopter, can't you? But
yeah, exactly.
How is, you're on this, probably the first year, I guess, that you're properly being looked after. Yes, you're on the development team, not the Pro World Tour team, but you're getting the Scott. Is it the Scott foil still?
Yeah, Scott foil.
How is the Scott? How's the kit that they've got you on?
It is unbelievable. It is.
Yeah.
I came from the Factors end of last year, and then before that I had a Velo S5. So, like, you say, oh, how's the bike? And then, like, it's such a privileged position to be able to compare it to those ones. But it is phenomenal. Everyone is super happy. They seem to be really well made as well. It is such a boring, like, there's no, it's kind of, he's being told he has to ride this bike by the team. He's going to say it's good, but they're actually just phenomenal bikes, and really big fans riding. It makes me excited to go out and ride it every day, really, which is what you need a bike to do.
I've heard really good things about Scott's. I think they've never really been given the hype that they maybe deserve. But yeah, I mean, from all accounts, everyone I've heard that's ridden one says that they're a fantastic bike. And I mean, they're not a bad looking bike either. They look like I guess they got like the same sort of wheel profile on the rear, that down tube, similar to the S5, the seat tubes, very similar to the S5 anyway, and it sort of conforms to that wheel shape. So let's talk about, I guess, the start of the season. What does it look like for you? Because if you look at the men's World Tour team, they're killing it at the moment. The Tour Down Under with Ethan and Brady just crushing it. And then Binny's gone back-to-back on his wins. He had a really rough year last year. It looks like that shift has been really positive for him. You're talking about the positive morale there. we're seeing a team that is clocking wins in an environment that is really hard to clock wins in, because UAE is throwing everything at it. Remco's coming out with the Red Bull team. They're throwing everything at it. Like, everyone's hungry to start clocking these W's. What's that? How does that filter down to the Devo team, and how are you guys feeling? You said you did a race recently. I've got that up here, and that is the the Figuera
Yeah.
Championship Classic. Is that right?
Yep.
How'd you guys go in that?
Well, I think we did quite well. Pau Marti, Spanish rider on the team, he cut third, so you can't really complain with that. And all the boys were flying. I had a few mechanical, I had 2 flat tires in the wrong moments, which was a shame for me. But
We won't talk about your position, but
yeah, we've lost that one. But yeah, I think it was really good. Like, that was with the pro team, so I got the bit of a late call up for this one, and yeah, it was awesome. And I think I'm off to Rwanda next week to do tour of Rwanda, and there's been a lot of success from the team last year and the years before in that race. So I think it's really exciting. I'm keen to win some races, I think, is the motto in the team. We're there to, especially in the development team with the Tim Elweston is the manager for the Conti team. He's there to win it. So it's a really cool environment to be part of.
And Africa's a bit of a happy hunting ground with you. I was having a look over your 2025 results, and you came second in the Grand Prix de Cotonou, and also the Tour of Benin. You won stage 6 there last year. And that's a 1.2 race and a 2.2 race for the Tour of Benin. But you must be pretty happy to return to Africa. And also, just having a look, your World Championships ITT, 21st. Is that right? That's incredible.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. It wasn't
Africa's a happy place for you.
It's the place to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool to have gone to Africa twice last year and going back again now. It's, it's awesome. I'm a big fan, actually. The culture and stuff, everyone seems to be so happy. I haven't seen a crowd get so excited about a bike race ever than in the World Championships. Even on the recce rides, the crowds were 5 deep up the climb on a recon day. So
really,
I'm really excited to go back there next week. Well, on Thursday, actually.
Wow. It's a bucket list place for me, Africa. My brother's been, he's done Kilimanjaro and everything, but it's just, I don't know. I grew up on The Lion King as one of those formative movies, and to me, it's just somewhere that I got to go. But I was talking to Kim LeCourt-Pinard, and she was saying that she was doing some training rides. I think it was Kim, or it might have been Neen Fisher-Black. Someone that the kids were chasing after him and pinching the energy gel bars out of their jerseys not because they were trying to steal anything, but because they were just so excited about the race and they just wanted a souvenir. Did you have any of that? Yeah?
I didn't have people pinching it out of my pockets. There was lots of, you go to most races, like, oh, give me a bottle, even if it's like a 55-year-old Belgian dude. We'd much rather give it to a very excited young African kid who's running alongside and just happy to be there. So yeah, I mean, I gave a few gloves and stuff to extra bits of kit last year, and there's that's something I want to do this year more often as well. Just all the extra kit you get at the end of the year, donate it to some of those African countries, because those riders actually need it a lot more than we do. So yeah, but it's an awesome environment, and I'm a big fan to be out there and kind of, part of the event that they're so excited about.
Yeah, totally. And it must feel a little bit like you're on, I mean, Asia has developed, the Middle East has developed, but with Africa and cycling, it is somewhere that is very much developing. And with their, I guess, their penchant for endurance sports, it is somewhere where you feel like if cycling can crack into Africa, you look at the marathon runners that come out of places like Kenya, and you transition, you transfer those sort of abilities to someone on a bike, mate,
Mm.
you might be out of a job.
Yeah, don't want to give them too many gloves.
Yeah, you might be working in your own redundancy.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's cool. You see lots of like racing in Benin. There's lots of like the African national teams. So you see these guys, and you've rock up there, and you've got a bit of an advantage with the equipment and the training and stuff you've been able to do compared to these guys who've obviously got a lot tougher like life than we have.
Yeah.
But like the passion for it, and they're just ready to launch. They attack so hard, and they just give it a red hot crack, and they're very strong as well. So, yeah, I'm sure once they crack it, and there's plenty of charities. I think my team, Racing for Change, is a big thing, and that's an African cycling charity. So, once they crack it, I think there's gonna be a lot of people out of a job, really.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's one of those markets that you think is really exciting. It's somewhere that there could be a lot of investment that comes from Africa into cycling, but also a lot of athletes. And it seems to be, and I think sort of you've kind of proven it, it seems to be a really popular sport there as well. So as an emerging market, people to put on races and to watch races, it just sounds like a really exciting opportunity. So I hope they continue to push that. I think it's really cool. With all of that, then let's talk a little bit about you. Bring it back to Zac Marriage himself. What's it like coming from racing in Australia? Super wide roads, cobbles don't exist because we live in the 21st century. There are smaller bunches, a wider skill and strength gap, I guess, between the people at the top of the race and at the bottom of the race. And then moving over to Europe, you've been dropped in as a stagiaire in Israel Premier Tech in races like the Tour of Britain and the Vuelta of Portugal. Mate, it must have been daunting. How'd you cope?
Yeah, it was quite tough, to be fair. They did a really good job. The first Vuelta of Portugal was a race with the Conti team, and we were able to be super competitive. Won a bunch of stages there with Powell and Brady and Rotto, and so it was a really good stepping stone. And then, yeah, Tour of Britain, another level higher. Lucky enough with Tour Down Under, it's also a really high level, so it's kind of it wasn't completely brand new, but yeah, the roads are so much smaller, and everyone's so much more compact, and that's by far the hardest part of learning to race in Europe. Everyone can train their legs, and the level in Australia is really high. It's just like the level in Europe, everyone's really high,
Yeah.
So, it's just, and you really have to work on the bunch stuff is the hardest thing, and practicing that in Australia is quite difficult. With the wider roads, you can kind of just ask to be at the front, and you can kind of get there more or less. Whereas here, you can't even speak the same language as them, so you can't. It's tricky. And these guys have done it for juniors, bashing handlebars against each other. So luckily, there's a lot of people in the team that are in the same sort of situation. I know, like speaking to Mike Woods a week ago, and he obviously joined cycling really late, so none of that was. He was saying none of that was as natural to him, and so he's got lots of processes, and all the pros have got processes to make it easier. So I guess it's just learn to do that better, and then hopefully the results will follow.
Yeah, totally. And in regards to those races, a common phrase that seems to get used by cyclists is getting your head kicked in. Did you get your head kicked in a bit? Did you get dropped from a few of those races? How did you feel? How long did it take you, I guess, to feel like you belonged in that environment?
I guess we're still kind of getting there, really. Getting your head kicked in, I guess, is part of it. Even like the best riders in the world, Tadej Pogacar doesn't win every race he signs up for. Like it's something like a 50%, which is the best in the world by a long way. And that's half the races you don't win, But yeah, I think you should go through your whole life, and with 5 pro victories, you've had a successful career. So you get your head kicked in a lot. But I guess it's just kind of learning to know when you need to push it, and then do your job, and then you can either get out, and then you're not getting your head kicked in because you're strategically dropped,
Yep.
or sometimes they're just better than you, and that's just part of it. So that's what you train for, really. Keeps you motivated,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, true. Nothing, I find, like, I haven't done a crit in a while. And I know the first crit I go back to, I'm just going to get dropped. But I find that there is no better motivation than going back to a race where you just get absolutely flogged in and you just realize that you're just not at the level that you need to be.
Yeah.
Is that what motivates you then? What do you find is the biggest motivator for you? The thing that gets you on the bike every day? Is it the process? Is it the comparing yourself to others and knowing that you still got growth in you? What is it that, it's not a piss easy job that you've gone and picked up. I think a lot of people sitting at home might just think that you guys ride your bike all the time, but like,
Yeah.
it's a tough gig. What
Yeah.
gets you up day to day? What makes you throw the leg over the bike each time and go out for those 6-hour training rides or whatever?
I guess it's just the goal of making it to the World Tour, really. I've got a year to make it happen in my mind. So that's what's getting me there every day. It's been like the motivation's super high at the moment, I guess, start of the season. So I haven't really had that as a problem just yet. I know, I'm sure it will be at some point, motivation to get cruising around if it's pissing down rain and stuff. But I think, yeah, just the process of getting better is so satisfying to me. And you've got like a Garmin now tracking every pedal stroke. You've got, so the little ring tells you how you're sleeping. So everything is tracked, everything is accountable. There's no hiding, which I really enjoy, actually. I think, well, for the good and bad, there's no hiding, but just keeps you so honest about your performance, really. So
Yeah.
I really enjoy that. Everything you do is so quantifiable. So I'm not the biggest numbers man in the world, but maybe I am, I guess, after saying this. It's making me realise.
Yeah, no, it is though. I remember when I first started cycling, and I am getting a bit. What is it? I think the phrase is I'm getting a bit long in the tooth. But I remember power meters just sort of coming on, and I didn't even have a heart rate monitor when I first started training. It was just distance and average speed. So for sure, it's come a long way, and having that data, even the trickle down of that technology to the point where I can access all of that stuff. It is crazy. I don't have the ring though. My sleep is awful. You did talk about your goals there though, and I did want to, touch on that before we close off. What are your goals short term? Get to the World Tour by the end of this year, but also long term. And what are the conversations with NSN looking like in regards to how you achieve those and what your pathway is here?
Yeah, so I guess big goal, make it to the World Tour. It's got a good track record with the development team to moving riders up. Yeah, and giving lots of opportunities. So I guess that's the big goal. I'm breaking it down with the team. So I'm going into races that they think I can win, and then I think I can win. So to a Rwanda, say, for example, there's lots of the course in theory suits me quite well. So I guess short-term goal is do well there, get results. And then hopefully it's all just stepping stones to make it to the World Tour. And I guess like long term, I'd love to ride the Tour de France one day. I guess that's what's keeping me going. I feel like most cyclists would, but hearing stories from pro riders about, we're going down the Champs-Élysées and the jets were coming over, and just being part of that big circus would be awesome. I really want to do that one day.
Totally. I've had a chat to a couple, but I think Marcel Kittel talking about winning on the Champs-Élysées just gave me goosebumps listening to that. I don't want to ride the Tour de France. I think it sounds like an awful time, but just the idea of being a part of that in some way just sounds so cool. So yeah, I think that's such a cool goal to have. One last question before I let you go then. You talk about the development team being really good. Israel Premier Tech was initially started as a team specifically focused at developing Israeli riders and getting them to the World Tour. Now, obviously, that shifted. But how much of that development structure, and you might not even know the answer to this, but how much of that development structure was retained, if you do know, and how do you feel that they are going as a development squad? You seem to be singing their praises just then. You feel like you've got a really good group around you, helping you elevate to those goals that you've got?
Yeah. Well, I think statistically it's the second best development team in the world behind the Red Bull rookies. And it was ahead of them for most of the year. But I think just the culture of it is super, super good, which I guess is easy to say, but it's, yeah. Say like last year, 4 riders moved up, I think.
Yeah.
And the year before, like it was the same thing. 2 or 3, I think, moved up then. And it's just like, and the riders are not bad. I got Brady Gilmore, who's already podiuming World Tour races, and before that, like Joe Blackmore and stuff like this. Like, they're not just breeding riders that are pro riders; they're breeding really good ones. So I think that's an important distinction to make. But yeah, it's just like the process is so clear. Like, I've ridden with the pros already, and that's my first European race of the year. So I guess like you surround yourself with the people that where you want to be. So there's so many options to do that with this team, which I'm really enjoying.
Well, look, I'm genuinely happy to hear that. And I genuinely appreciate you taking the time to sit down and have a chat to this old guy. So, yeah, look, cheers, mate, and best of luck. Tour of Rwanda, when does that kick off?
22nd, I believe.
Okay, so if you want to stay up with that, I don't think we've got that televised in Australia, but there are always sites. Domestique will have that on.
Awesome.
So, yeah, cheers, Zac, and best of luck with the year.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Hoping to see you make that promotion up. And, like I said, best of luck, and looking forward to watching you go.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Pleasure. All right, so Tour of Rwanda, really keen to see that. And again, thanks, Zac, for coming on. We really appreciate all the guests on here. Got a few really good ones lined up, so the hits keep coming. And again, if you're on YouTube and you're watching this and you've got some suggestions for guests, chuck them in the comments. Give this a like. Go over to Domestique. Make it your favorite cycling news website. Why wouldn't you? And cheers, everyone.